The following BLTV program is brought to you by O'Flaherty Law. Please enjoy.
Well, hey, everybody. Welcome back to this episode of the Seize Your Business podcast. As always, I'm your host, Bryan McDonald from OnPurpose Growth. And today, I've got an awesome friend, a wonderful guest on, Ronan Leonard, and his business is e-countability. And what we're going to be talking about today is, your real job in business. And what that is not focusing on being the best business. It's focused on being the best business owner. And Ronan's got some phenomenal insight, into this, and it just makes complete sense. So sit back and relax and enjoy this episode as we dive in. So Ronan, thanks for being on, man. I appreciate this.
Oh, Bryan, thanks for having me. I'm really looking forward to this discussion and seeing what interesting ideas we're going to come up with.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I appreciate it. It's as we record this, it's a different day because you're in Australia than where I'm at. So I appreciate you rearranging the schedule and being on. So why don't you give the watchers and the listeners a little bit of background of who you are and what your business is before we dive into this?
Sure. Well, for a decade, I worked on cruise ships traveling the world, which was a lot of fun, including I worked on a ship that sunk in the middle of a violent storm. Obviously, I survived and everyone else did, luckily enough. And then I started an events business that I scaled and exited after about 13 years. And the reason I did that is that I looked at what I was doing and I realized that I was playing a bit of a smaller game, that I really wasn't pushing myself. I wasn't really challenging. And there's a great quote from, if you know the SEO guy, Neil Patel, he says, if you're going to swing for the fence. If you're going to run a business and you're going to work 40, 50, 60 hours a week, it's just as hard it's just as easy, the same amount of hours to run a business that's really going to have a bigger impact than it is to run just a milk store or a small little business. So why wouldn't you try and leverage and really swing for the fence? So what I do is I work with people that have reached that kind of stage where they're looking for the next growth within their business, and it's not always what they think. So it could be that they could be excellent at what they do, but not really making that revenue. So I show them how to package that up into mastermind groups and become a bit of an authority, a bit of a leader, and have that bigger impact. So in a nutshell, that's what I do, Bryan.
Oh, cool. So, and I appreciate you sharing that with me because I know the audience and the listeners and the watchers, everybody wants to make a bigger impact. So I'm glad that you're on to talk about this because I think you and I, think the same way, is that the amount of money we make is in direct proportion to the value and the impact that we leave. So I think this is going to be a great topic. So what's the distinction between focusing on being a better business owner versus being a better business?
Well, most people start a small business partly around their skill set. So they're a great plumber and then they go, oh, I'm sick of working for Joe's Plumbing. I'm going to start my own plumbing. So not only do they have to then do the 8 hours of plumbing, but they've got to do all the marketing and the quotes and the invoicing and all the stuff that they're not particularly good at. And we all know in corporate, we've all worked for somebody, they're going, how the hell did this guy get to be the boss, right?
Exactly.
The old Peter principle is that you're promoted to a level of incompetency. They were great at the lower level and they reach that level and go, oh, this man's an idiot, or this woman, oh, how did she get there? The same thing happens for small business owners if they're not careful. Because not only then do you focus on all the technical things that you're good at, I'm a really good copywriter, I'm really good at SEO, but then there's all this business acumen around that. Mm-hmm. So your job is to focus as much as possible on the systems and scaling your business and what your business really looks like, instead of getting bogged down of building this business around potentially just you and your technical expertise. Because you could be the best copywriter ever, but if you haven't built systems and you're not able to scale and you're not building something that's bigger than yourself, you'll end up working 50, 60 hours a week for the next 10 or 20 years, and then going, hang on, I'm competing with everybody else who doesn't have my expertise, is nowhere near as good as me, but they sound the same when people are shopping around because people can't tell the difference between an amazing copywriter and me because I don't have the systems in place. I don't have the authority, and I'm missing parts of scaling that business. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. So, if you can, what it sounds like is you can be really great at what you do, and you're not able to make the impact in the world because you're missing these other parts, aka parts of a business owner, to actually transfer that value to the marketplace.
Yeah, exactly. One of the phrases I like to use is that you could be so anonymous, you might be in witness protection, right?
Yeah,
We all
yeah.
we all struggle. They're like, I'm really good at what I do, but nobody knows about it. And sometimes that comes down to communicating your value, marketing, all of those things that if you're not a natural marketer or a natural kind of salesperson, and most business owners aren't, they struggle with that aspect, and
Mhm.
therefore then they go, okay, that's too hard basket. Let me just go back to kind of what I know, the technical side, that I'm good at this, and then just focus sometimes just more and more on that, ignoring the changes, ignoring the innovation, ignoring all those opportunities out there to leverage your business further. And instead you just build this wall around you of, I'm good at what I do and I'll stick at that.
So, for there's going to be a portion of people that that are watching or listening to this that maybe they see themselves in that situation, right? They're already struggling to, you know, not be in witness protection, right? uh, is there other things that maybe somebody who's thinking to themselves, like, how do I know I'm in this situation where I need to start making the change, to value? Like, what's going on in their world that maybe they can, begin to be aware of it?
Well, one of the first things to do is to probably have that honest conversation. Look at the hours I do, look at the impact I'm making, look at the profit margin at the end. You focus on profit, right, Brian? It's
Yep.
the key thing. It's not revenue, it's profit.
Yep.
So that's one of the key things to look at. And then you probably do a little bit of a SWOT analysis. So I'm no longer interested in my competitors in any other reason. So what I actually say is that my biggest competitor, the only competitor, is my previous version of myself.
Yeah.
What was I like 6 months ago? Have I grown? Have I changed? Am I investing in myself? I used to look at all my competitors, go, oh, that person, they're taking away from me. They're not as good as me. But that's irrelevant. And it ties back into the very first sentence about this. Your job is to be the best business owner.
Mm-hmm.
Not worry about the competition, but how can you innovate? How can you improve? So when you start to have that hard conversation with yourself, you can say, okay, what am I missing? Because business is so incredibly complex these days. We can't be across all of those things. So it's connecting sometimes with other people. We've been in mastermind groups. Mastermind groups have three different things. First of all, you get the kind of support you need.
Mm-hmm.
Second, you're around other people that share resources and ideas and show you things that you didn't know. And third, I'm all about leverage. How can you leverage a business as much as possible? And sometimes that's JV partners, finding other people. For example, you're the copywriter. Find somebody that builds websites and say, hey, let's partner together and I'll do all the copy for the websites at a great price. Get some additional revenue coming through. So there are multiple ways you can do that once you've had that hard conversation with yourself around, okay, well, where am I playing small? What am I missing? What's my big goal that I can work towards? Or some people, it's fine. If they're happy with their small business, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And saying,
Right.
this is all I want. I don't want the complexity of running a bigger business, or it's just not for me. But it starts with having that sort of hard conversation with yourself.
So that makes sense. So somebody, let's say they have a hard conversation with themselves, and they realize that, there's a bunch of areas where I'm getting in my own way to keep myself in witness protection. How do they start making this change? Like, how have you seen people, start actually making these changes to make that bigger impact?
Well, the majority of it comes down to beliefs. And the reason I know this, because I had it myself. So for 13 years when I ran my business, I didn't pay for any coaching. I wasn't in any mastermind groups. I didn't have a mentor. So I'm in my own little sort of thought bubble. And it was only when I started to connect with other people on a deeper level than just, back and forth across LinkedIn or going to a networking event, that you start to see that there is this huge opportunities, but it comes down to your mindset and what you truly believe in. And I have this system. If you've heard of Ken Wilber, he created this thing called Integral. And you look at 4 parts. There's 4 parts to everything. It's a little bit like if you look at Stephen R. Covey has those 4 quadrants.
Oh yeah.
Robert Kiyosaki. It's a really good model, that 4 one. So he has 4 quadrants, and one of them is your internal beliefs. The other one is your external physical appearance. The other one is the beliefs of family, friends, or even the business environment you're in. And the 4th one is structural, around government, regulation. All those things are outside your control. All 4 of those make up your ability to look at any kind of problem or anything that happened and see where you are and why you're at that point. So let me give you a good example. For me, my mum was my parents divorced at a very young age. My mum was very, very conservative with money. And actually, I've transferred those beliefs from growing up with her for the last 30 odd years. I have the same beliefs that I had young growing up with money, because that shaped, when I look back at my business experience, it shaped so many opportunities where I missed because I was quite conservative with money. Wasn't right there. So when you look at those belief patterns, that was all internal. If you can start to shift that, or you can go, oh, that's not for me. It's for other people to run masterminds, or that's for other people to scale or to franchise. Well, is it? And until you have those hard conversations are really around your beliefs and what's possible and what isn't, and start to sort of chip away at those, can you really see where you're playing and where you fit into that model, where you fit into business. And that allows you to start to look at those big aspirational goals. I want to make a dent. I want to do something bigger, but potentially those beliefs have always been stopping you.
That's interesting, because when I think about, you referred to something before about somebody out, competition actually getting more market share. You use those words because they were better marketers. That makes me think about, people have to focus on, like, what am I not really good at, and how can I get better at that? So somebody, like marketing. So if I'm a good copywriter, but I'm not good at marketing, how can I get better at marketing? So the guy that is selling more than me, but isn't as good, I outsell that person, right? So it's looking in those areas and changing those beliefs, right?
Yeah, and sometimes you only need to know enough not to get ripped off. You don't need to. You want to always want to play to your strengths. You want to be aware of your weaknesses. But certainly, as I said, business is so complex these days. You're talking about websites that you've got conversion rate experts. You've got people that just do Facebook ads. You've got growth hackers. There's a million and one ways you could go. Paring it back and understanding what that might mean. Knowing enough knowledge that when you speak to someone, you ask enough of the right questions that they're not going to rip you off. And you go, well, you buy the first expert that is great at marketing but terrible at what they do, right? We had this conversation offline.
Exactly.
But you've got to invest in those things. You've got to invest some time, more time if you can do it yourself, but some time, and then invest in other people to go, okay, this is the missing part. But it takes a little while, because you'll make mistakes. That's what business is about. You'll hire the wrong SEO person, or you'll hire the wrong marketer, and for some people that stops them from ever trying again. They go, oh, it's too hard. I hired this guy, I paid $2,000. My website still sucks. I'm not getting the conversions. But you've got to keep investing. You've got to keep looking for those people. And obviously, when you've invested in your symbolic capital, which is the people that like, and trust, your network of people that you've built that up, you can always go and ask them, oh, your website looks amazing. Who did you use? I use this guy, and get those referrals from trusted people, rather than just, Googling and finding that the person at the top is the best marketer.
Right. So I love that example, because it kind of explains what we're talking about is, the person at the top of Google is the best marketer, not necessarily the best service provider of that service.
Yeah, it goes full circle, right?
Exactly. So from what I'm listening to hear you say, is getting out of the mode of doing everything myself and figuring out how to leverage other knowledge and other people to grow a business, because that's what a good business owner does. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a word for it. Everyone knows API as you can plug in an API and it'll talk
Yeah.
to another platform. API can also mean another person's intellect. How can I plug into someone else's intellect, right? I came up with that one.
I
How
love
can
it.
I do that and find other ways that people have knowledge, ideas, stuff that I don't know, that are going to give me that shortcut? They're going to stop me spending 6 months reading every blog about SEO, for example, only to find out that they're all conflicting, and I'm paralyzed by paralysis because there's just so much information out there these days. So finding those, I'd say shortcuts, but not hacks. So you've still got to really do the work. You've still got to really do your due diligence, but finding those people and investing in yourself to say, all right, I'm smart enough to know that I don't know it all. Let me find people that have different ideas, advice, and can support me and can help me grow. That's where you'll take that next leap, and you'll get outside of that kind of prison that you built yourself as a potentially a small business owner.
So there's something you said here that I want to talk about, because I think it inherently is very prevalent in what we're talking about, and it's the distinction between a shortcut and a hack, right? Because there's no. Are you of the belief that there is, to become a good business owner, you figure out what the shortcuts are, so you learn, rather than cheating the system with a hack?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's a good point. Yes, and that's what I raised. So a hack is normally, like, buy this $97 product and it's going to give you all these backlinks, whatever it is.
Yeah.
All those hacks don't kind of work, and what normally happens, they kind of work for one person and they sell it to 1,000 people and it doesn't work. So a shortcut is saying, yeah, look, I could spend the next 6 months Googling all this and I could try and figure it all out myself, but somebody's already done that. And if I find that right person, they're going to give me the accelerated learning, the bypassing a lot of mistakes, and saying, whether it's a done with you service or something that allows you to see what you don't see and take you there quicker than trying to figure it all out yourself. Because I actually believe we're in the not knowing economy. Everyone's talking about the knowledge economy. We've kind of passed that point now, where there is just so much specialization. There is so much information out there. It's okay not to know, right? It's let go of the ego and say, look, I've got no idea. Because the second you hold on to that belief of, I'm an expert, I've got it all figured out, the world is changing at such a rapid pace. It's impossible to stay up with that. So give yourself permission to go, look, I know almost nothing. Let go of the ego. It's all changed. Let me just figure out with other smart people, what are we missing? Where can we help each other, and where can we create that leverage?
So, and I appreciate you sharing that because I'm of the belief that you do yourself, I'll speak in I statements. I do myself a disservice by using the hack because I don't get the knowledge from the shortcut. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I think that's important, because the something you said there is the do it with you service, or I'll do it for you and show you how I did it, is the transfer of that knowledge, right?
Yeah. Learning doesn't happen until something changes. So what we're currently doing these days if you think back 20 years ago when I first started business, information was quite scarce, and now it's been commoditized. It's everywhere. So when you started a business, like, how do I get a WordPress site up? And it wasn't even invented then. How do I get a website up? All that stuff was quite hard to find. Now it's kind of everywhere. So we're scrolling through all this information, but we're not actioning hardly any of it. So we're not learning it. And often, yourself, Bryan, so say, for example, the first time you pick up a tennis racket, the knowledge is in feeling something, like you hit something or doing something. Even people who've never started a business, when you first start a business, you've got this intellectual idea, oh, look, I could probably start that, but you don't know for sure. But when you start to do it, you feel it. So there's a lot of knowledge that needs to be felt. You need to actually feel it rather than just intellectually. So, for example, I talked earlier about mindset. So everybody's posting about mindset now. Everyone goes, I know mindset's true. Right? And then the second you ask them, well, what have you done to sort of work on your mindset in the last 12 months? Well, nothing. But I know it's important. I know it's key, but you don't, because you haven't been explored, and no one's really pushed you, and no one's really looked at those limiting beliefs. As I said, I had one for the last 30 years. So there's a huge difference between you scrolling information and going, yes, I know it, and actually starting to do it and feeling it and applying it. And that's when the learning happens.
Yeah, the knowing is not the same as doing, right? We can know a lot of things, and that's actually dangerous in the world of, I'll rephrase, in the knowledge economy, right, that we've been in, knowing things becomes dangerous because you can just know a lot, and you're just then in the business of knowing things, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a bit of a sort of false trap, and the market's changing. You know something, and it's the beginner's mindset. It's always stay curious.
Yeah.
And the more you can do that, you can look and go, okay, everyone's following this guru, and everyone's telling you 10x, blah blah blah, whatever it is, and you go, okay, well, is that really true, or are we reaching a paradigm shift where you're seeing something that other people aren't because they're just blindly following? So there's really something about always being curious, always asking questions, and as it comes back to that point where you just don't know it all, and you can have that mindset. You're far less likely to fall into the traps of, I just spent 12 months building this online course that no one wants, or I've hired this marketer and they've turned out to be an absolute dud because I didn't ask enough questions, I didn't go a little bit deeper, or one of the key things is I actually didn't find out what my real problem is. Because
I like that one.
Yes. Yeah. What we do is we tend to jump to a conclusion, myself included. I've done this numerous times. You go, I don't have enough customers. And then you're convinced I need more SEO. So I need better Google search engine rankings. Now, the second you've decided that that's what you need, it's just a question of which SEO expert's going to take your money, right? Yeah. So it doesn't really, that's the only thing. Instead of going, well, maybe it's the fact that the website needs better copy, or it needs to be streamlined so that I get more conversions. So you spend more time thinking about the real root of the problem instead of jumping to that conclusion that this is what I need, because the second you do that, it's just a question of which person is going to get your money, and it might not be the right sort of thing you need.
Yeah, I love that, because we have a mantra in my business that, make sure what you're working on is a problem and not a symptom, right? Like get to the actual root of the issue, because that's where results happen faster. And if you're just coming up with like, well, I don't have enough customers, SEO is the answer, you're literally throwing things against the wall and seeing if it sticks.
Yeah. And in fact, when I'm diving deeper into content, I believe that we've hit this tsunami of content where there's more and more content out there. Everybody's producing podcasts like this one, right? Yeah. Everyone's producing blogs and cheat sheets and lead magnets and all those kinds of things, but engagement is plummeting. So we've reached this point now where people are going, well, we talked about this just before we got on. Gary Vee's telling you to create 64 pieces of content. So where's your audience for that? Where are people going to consume that and engage with you? So it's more about engagement now than just content. Mm-hmm. So we started this mastermind to work out, actually, what are you doing with that content? What's the purpose of it? Mm-hmm. What are you measuring? How much are you investing in that? And all of a sudden people go, well, actually, I'm spending 15 hours a week on content. And what's it delivering for you? Well, not much. People are seeing my face somewhere, and kind of people are reading my blogs, but they've got no end goal in mind. So you have two choices. You can produce more and more content, as you said, that seems like a symptom. Yeah. Or you can look at what's the real problem. The real problem for most people is engagement. They don't have a content problem; they have an engagement problem. So solve that problem of how do you create content that creates more engagement. All of a sudden you've got more people that really know, like, and trust you, more likely to buy from you than just going, let me just push out more and more content.
So do you feel that well, I'll back up a second. So what I just kind of experienced you going through is asking yourself or asking really good questions to get to the answer. So is that one way that you're serving people in the world through like these mastermind groups? Is that like what a mastermind group can do, is help ask the right questions?
Yeah, absolutely. You can join as many Facebook groups as you like, and people have, 50, 100, 200,
Mm-hmm.
and then you get this 2D information of messages back and forth, scrolling down and finding you've got 5 different opinions from people you don't know,
Yeah,
and
right.
don't know your business, and don't know to ask you the right questions or push back on you. Or you can join a small tight-knit group of people that really you'll there's one guy on another podcast I was on quite succinctly put it: you'll open the kimono and you'll peel back the facade, and you'll actually say, I'm really struggling with this, because you can't do that on social media. You've got to portray that, hashtag we're all winning, life's brilliant. The only way you can do that is to, whether it is with a mentor or a coach, or somebody, some kind of trusted advisor or group, that go, actually, these are my real problems. And then when you can do that, you can finally get the help you need, the support you need, and create that bigger goal you want to work towards, that aspirational of, I want 10 coaches under me, or I want to dominate the world, whatever it is what your big goal is. You can start to finally admit it. I'm not there yet. What are the steps? What's the next right move, as Oprah says. So absolutely, masterminds are a great way of ensuring that you get that shortcut, not the hack. You get some support. You can share resources, and you learn things from others that you just would never have learned in your own little thought bubble.
Yeah. One thing that drives me nuts when I'm in these, like some of these, Facebook groups or whatever, is when people post, and I mean, there are some, there's 80,000 people in it or whatnot. Some of them, people will post like, I've got $10,000. What should I invest in? Or, hey, I want to start my own business. What should I start? And those questions drive me nuts, because you're going to get so many answers that are, over here and over there. It just, I get a pit in my stomach when I see those questions asked, because it's just horrible.
Well, it's right up with Cora. Cora asked some of the dumbest questions I've ever heard. And I know why. They people make money from posting a question if it gets a lot of views. Believe it or not, it's micro cents, but if it's something that is really, really dumb and gets huge amount of engagement, then they make, hey, I've made $50 from Cora, which is why when you look on there, most of the questions are just useless, worthless. Yeah.
Well, listen, as we wrap up here, is there anything else you want to share about, this, thinking around being a better business owner versus being the best business?
Yeah, I'm happy to share with your audience something I call a better return on intellect. So,
okay,
you asked that question, and I probably didn't quite answer it early on. Is that when you sit down and work out all your knowledge, expertise, experience, results you've already had, you're really great at what you do, but you're not quite earning that revenue that you think you should. You're still in witness protection program, or you're not quite there yet. I call it a return on intellect, and I've got a little calculator we'll give away in the show notes, just to sit down and go, okay, well, am I making my best return on intellect? And there's a little sheet there to start to think about the bigger picture and go, how can I create more leverage? How can I create more abundance in my life? And how can I really create the business that really works for me, not the other way around?
That's awesome. So anybody watching or listening, if you want that, what was it called?
I call it a return on intellect calculator, and there's a 10-step kind of cheat sheet with that. Okay,
so if you're watching or listening to this, all you got to do is go to the show notes, and we'll be sharing that that link to get that from Ronan. And Ronan, I'm very grateful you share that with the audience. So I love when people add value like that to everybody. So great, man. So thank you. This was awesome. A phenomenal conversation, around this. And why don't you tell everybody how they can find you or get a hold of you if they want to do that?
They can get hold of me on our website is accountability.io. But then I'm also very active on LinkedIn, as Bryan is. So we're very active on LinkedIn, posting all sorts of weird and wonderful and strange strange comments and posts on LinkedIn. It's the place to go for B2B people. So yeah, come and engage with us on LinkedIn, myself or Bryan. And if you want to know more about me, come directly to the website accountability.io.
And everybody, I'll be sharing that website as well in the show notes. So if you didn't write it down, don't worry about it. So awesome. So thanks again, Ronan, and thank you everybody for tuning in to this episode of the Caesar Business Podcast. My name is Bryan McDonald, and as Ronan said, you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm there every single day if you would like to engage with me. And if you ever like to learn more about what OnPurpose Growth does, you can come to onpurposegrowth.com, and we'll be sharing that in the show notes as well. So thanks again, Ronan, and we'll see everybody next time.
Okay, thanks, Bryan.
Thanks so much for watching our video. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below. Click the subscribe button for new videos every week, and download and review us on iTunes. Visit learn-about-law.com for other legal-related articles and videos. Visit our business podcast and video blog, caesarbusiness.com, and visit Making Real Estate Fun for real estate videos and podcasts. Call us at 630-324-6666 for a free consultation.